This programme is powered by Hankook tyres, Autosportinsurance.com, and Magla. Create your own digital magazine. Hello and welcome to the Belgian Ardennes for the opening round of the Supercar Challenge 2018. We're at the 7-kilometre Spa Francorchamps circuit and we'll take a look at the races of the Supercar Challenge and the GT and Prototype Challenge powered by Hankook. 45 entries treated to some traditional Spa weather. Sunny on the Saturday and rainy on the Sunday, but these are the mood swings for which Spa is famed. There was lots in store for the competitors in the two one-hour races, but before we get to that, let's take a look at some of the class of 2018. In GT, JR Motorsport took the title for the second time last year. In 2016, it was Belgium's Vaardsluis and Chris Matthews who won the GT title, and in 2017, Vaardsluis defended that crown with Dutchman Bas Schouten. Here at Spa, they've got pole position for both races, but life hasn't become any easier. The nimble M4 silhouettes are now restricted to a less powerful 3.2-litre straight-six BMW motor. Another strong entry is the M4 silhouette number 199 of 30-year-old Dutchman Michael Verhagen, joined at the last minute by 18-year-old compatriot Willem Meyer, an ex-KNAF talent first, and here at Spa, injured first. Running in the woods on Saturday, he tripped and cracked his ankle. Luckily, it's only used for the throttle, and he and Michael Verhagen already have second for both races. Despite being P1 and P2 in qualifying, the M4 silhouettes are slower than last year. They've got good cornering speed and good tyre wear, but they lose out in terms of top speed to the heavier Porsche GT3 Cups. They, however, do struggle with the tyres. Nevertheless, there are no fewer than 12 Porsches in GT, including the newly formed Dutch team Bode Racing. Bob Herber saying we're hoping to have a reliability trump card. Porsches are really well built. We've got a speed advantage too. We've just got to control the tyre wear. With this kind of car, the rears wear out too quickly compared to the BMWs. When the tyres get too hot, the car starts to oversteer. But apart from that, it's an amazing car to drive. There's a strong field of touring cars in Supersport 1, including a new machine for HBR Racing. Robert and Benjamin Vandenberg ditching their 1 Series for the E90 BMW World Touring Car with the same 3.2-litre engine. Very Monster Autosport took the Supersport 1 title last year. Jonas de Kimper returns with his Golf TCR. Next to it, Rennie Steinmetz's Cupra TCR. Of course, the Cupra TCR with start number 201 is here as well for reigning champion Dennis de Boers, taking his second title last year. And he also won the Winter Endurance Championship for a second time this winter. This season, his teammate is the very quick Stan van Oord. I think I learned some tricks from Stan, says Dennis. He's very quick, but he's got the same driving technique as me, so good combination. Stan says, I hope I can keep up a good pace, also keep the car in good shape through the race. My previous experience comes from sprint racing, and this is real endurance racing, so I've got to find the right balance in speed and the overall condition of the tyres and the car. The duo will aim to retain the Supersport 1 title, but the competition is stronger than ever. In the sport class, the reigning champions also return to defend their title. Bart van der Broek and Chris Vogt with the Peugeot RCZ number 401. Rivals Spirit Racing have entered a Clio 3 and a Clio 4, both with 1.6 turbo engines, the same as the Peugeot, and a 2-litre normally aspirated Alfa 147 GTA, driven by John van der Voort and Sandra van der Slot, can't be counted out. There'll be more in the sport class later. Before the start of race 1 at Spa Bas Schouten, bringing the M4 silhouette in for repairs, JR Motorsport with a few minutes to fix the problem. The plate between the brake disc and the wheel hub broke and needs replacing. They get the car ready just in time, but they'll be forced to start from the pit lane, just like last year when they had to start from the pits at Zandvoort. So the second place car moves up to pole in GT, Michael Verhagen doing the first stint. Starting from row 4 on the outside, no Bas Schouten next to him. Verhagen has an advantage over the more powerful BMWs then. Also on the outside, second in class, Belgian driver Jon de Wilde in a Team Speed Lover Racing Porsche, fastest of the Porsche drivers, 0.2 of a second slower than the BMWs. Third quickest, Roger Grals, also run by Speed Lover Racing. He was second last year in the GT class. Bob Herber in Boda Racing's car in P4, hoping he's improved the setup for this 1 hour encounter to keep the tyres in optimum condition. Wiebel Weitzes for EMG Motorsport, sharing with Patrick Lamster, the former GT champion, with Donald Molenaar also in a Porsche. Phil Mulders, the Speed Lover, is in 6th, followed by the Belgian rock stars Chris and Koen Valters, 7th in the GT class. They'd hoped for more in qualifying. Koen Valters taking the first stint with pit stops between the 30th and 40th minute of the race. Jean-Pierre Lecoeur in the Ginetta G57 is the outright pole sitter on this combined grid of cars from the GT and Prototype Challenges, ahead of Matthias Becker in the Ligier, and 2013 Super GT champions father and son Jim and Glyn Geddy in their Ferrari. Also in Super GT, Oliver Freimut with this Lamborghini Super Trofeo. But Tim Gray and Alan Berg's front row sitting Praga R1 Turbo has mechanical problems, and that means at the end of the warm-up lap, Jean-Pierre Lecoeur in the Ginetta Nissan is on his own on the front row, ahead of Stefano Lini's Open Norma and Matthias Becker in the Ligier. With Roger Grals awaiting the start of the first race of the year, away we go, lights change, big start around the outside on the left-hand side from Barry Van Elk in the Mosler. Everybody jockeying for position, Bob Herber on the left there, and into La Source they go for the first time, all through clearly, no trouble in front, the Ligier spins on the curbs, contact. Looks like Roger Grals avoided the Ligier, but he did hit somebody. Barry Van Elk in the Mosler has the lead of the race. Into Eau Rouge he leads from the black Ginetta, Jean-Pierre Lecoeur up to third place, Jim Geddy in the Ferrari, and he leads the snarling pack, chasing the leaders as they start to climb the long Kemmel Straight with Roger Grals. He's got a really good exit here, reeling in Vincent Desprez, who got by him into Eau Rouge, and then tries to go by the BMW as well, gets by Michael Verhagen, who tries to defend on the brakes. Oh, contact! The Porsches get together, and that's Vincent Desprez. Grals through on the inside. So he picks up those 2 places, and there the Ligier being tidied up. Matthias Becker in trouble at La Source, and out of the race, Koen Valters. Looks like his race is over. He's walking away from the car. Take a look again with Koen Valters. Quick start down the inside. On the left, Bob Herber. Right in front is Roger Grals. And the Ligier gets sideways about here. Oh, he just can't avoid it. And that was a big impact.
Ik kan er niet ver aan doen. Ik zit aan de binnenkant van de bocht. Ik probeer.
Nothing much I could do really. I was on the inside of the corner to try and avoid some of the pushing and shoving at La Source. Something obviously happened on the exit, and the spinning car was right in the road. I can only assume it wasn't his fault. No blame for me either. A shame really, but that's how it is.
Nou, we kwamen bij de start goed.
We had a gun clean start, says Matthias Becker. Barry Van Elk got round me on the outside. He hit the Ginetta on the exit. I stayed clear of the Ginetta, stayed on the outside. Somebody hit me from behind. So I spun, slid across the track into the midfield. And then the complete front of the car was destroyed.
Was dat de hele voorkant eraf lag. Maar dankzij mijn team weer heel snel een nieuwe neus.
The team have managed to fit a new nose to the car. It's impossible to drive the car without it. But we're still in the race right now, and the aim is to finish. That's the most important thing at the moment, and our spirits are high. We'll take a look again from Michael Verhagen. At the start, going past the Ligier now, turns in, but watch his hands. Looks like there is contact with the Ligier, and that might be what caused the spin. Verhagen losing ground as John de Wilde in the all-white Porsche goes by him, and Phil Mulders also goes by. Phil Mulders moving from 6th to 2nd. Vincent Desprez and Roger Grals also get by Verhagen on the Kemmel Straight with 3.2 litre BMW engine. No match for the 3.8 litre 460 horsepower Porsche flat sixes. And to be fair, Verhagen didn't get a great run through Eau Rouge either. He was pretty much a dead duck there. Then the Porsches collide right in front of him. Unfortunately, there's just no road left for him to try and take advantage. Another time, the BMW's advantage, cornering speed and good tyre use must be put to full effect. Barry van Elk the leader from Jean-Pierre Leclerc and Jim Geddy. Jon de Wilde's white Porsche in 4th place, ahead of a slew of following cars. On board here with Dan Meyer in 11th. Cengiz Özcan, the Turkish driver, in his Porsche GT3 Cup, right in front. And Dan Meyer with a good run going here, looking down the inside into Piff Paff, and through he goes. And there is the big Porsche battle. Meyer just squeezing through. There he is with the Martini stripes. Then Dennis de Borst in the Cupra TCR ahead of Ronald van Loon's BMW, and Rennie Steinmetz in his Cupra pushing hard. That is the lead battle in the Supersport 1 class, which is looking stronger than ever this year. On board with Peter Schroers in his BMW M3 GT-R, chasing Benjamin Vandenberg in the 3 Series BMW they've got. That's an ex-World Touring Car chassis, also like Schroers with a 3.2 litre engine. And there's Ruud Olly, sneaks up the inside. He's got a 4 litre V8 in his M3 GT-R, and that worked well for him up the hill, didn't it? There's the battle for second. Ronald van Loon from Rennie Steinmetz. Jonas de Kimper 4th in the Golf TCR, while last year's Supersport 2 champion Ollie Taylor is down in 9th in an old E36 M3. Rennie Steinmetz in 3rd place, driving on his own in his Cupra. That's a new sporting brand launched by Seat, so it's no longer a Seat Cupra, it's now a Cupra, same way that Citroën has spun off DS as a sporting brand. Chasing Ronald and Luc van Loon's familiar BMW down into Eau Rouge. Now, has he got the grip to challenge the BMW? He has. He had a really good run through Eau Rouge, and the BMW left floundering there. So it's now Cupra's 1-2. Jonas de Kimper in 4th place in his Golf TCR in Supersport 1, a couple of cars further back. Before long, the battle for 3rd, though, is Ronald van Loon ahead of Benjamin Vandenberg, Peter Schroers, Ruud Olly, and then Jackie van der Ende in an older Seat Leon. And that's because Jonas de Kimper's Golf had a drive-through penalty for overtaking before the start line, and he dropped down the order. 3rd in GT, Roger Graals climbing the hill towards the end of the lap here at Spa and attacking Wim Mulders. Right in front, you can see Jim Geddy's Ferrari. In front of him is Jon de Wilde, who leads the GT class there in the all-white Porsche. And the Ferrari is starting to get in the way. Through goes Roger Graals. So he moves up to 2nd. Couple of cars further back, Bob Herber attacking Michael Verhagen. And again, out of the slow corner, the punch of that 3.8 litre Porsche flat 6 out-drags the BMW. Herber through on the inside at La Source. Jos Janssen down the inside at La Source, passing the Turkish driver Cenk Sayırsakar, but outbrakes himself. Dan Meyer goes through, so does Oliver Framert in the Lambo. There is Sayırsakar, and Özcan, the other Turkish Porsche, goes by him as well. Orange and black Porsche of Bob Herber attacking Vincent Desprez, and this is the battle for 4th place. He's got lots of momentum. He'll go by into the braking area. Roger Graals pulls out behind Jim Geddy, trying to get by the Ferrari. Can't squeeze through there, though. Pascalton struggling to catch up. He got held up by a 10-minute safety car, mired in the midfield. And so now he's got to carve his way through the slower machinery. Jos Janssen recovering from his La Source mistake. He's already gone by Cengiz Özcan. Now attacking the other Turkish driver, Cenk Sayırsakar, for 9th place in the GT class. And through he goes. Jon de Wilde leading in GT. Roger Graals with the yellow highlights. Behind Jim Geddy, there he is in 2nd. Then Wim Mulders and Bob Herber, Vincent Desprez, Michael Verhagen, and Wiebe Weitzers. And Bob Herber really on the attack. Started racing this Porsche last year, really gelled with it after the various different Mercedes and other things he's tried over the last couple of years. Goes a long way around the outside, into the bus stop chicane, can't quite get it done. But the battle rages with Michael Verhagen's BMW M4 right behind. Reigning champions, Dennis de Borst, Supersport 1, and Bas Schouten, GT champion behind him, though only the Cupra driver is leading his class at the moment. On board with Pere Schroers, attacking Ronald van Loon in that familiar metallic blue and white World Touring Car shaped BMW. The car's been completely rebuilt over the winter by Blueberry Racing. New chassis, but still retains its old look. And Pere Schroers all over the back of him. This is for 5th place. So Ronald van Loon being jumped by Benjamin van der Berg and Ruud Olly, who are battling just ahead. And as we get to the low point on the circuit, looks as though Pere Schroers has got a bit more momentum. Car off on the left. The yellow flag's now withdrawn, so through he goes up to 5th in Supersport 1. And just in front, the battle between Benjamin van den Berg in the 3 Series and Ruud Olly right behind him in the M3 GT-R with its 4-litre engine. A little more power. That means he carries a little more weight. Can he do it under braking at the top of the hill? He does. Little squirmy, but through he goes for 3rd. Jean-Pierre Lecoeur now fully up to speed in the Ginetta Nissan. Flies up the inside of Berry Van Elk to take the lead of the race and the GT and Prototype Challenge. Supersport 2 led by the BMW of Patrick de Vrede, ahead of Supersport 1's Nicolas Delancre in a Peugeot 308 and Priscilla Spellman's Lotus. Former Sport Class champion Bart Drost in the pits, starting with a brand new Clio 4, but he's got ignition problems. They had a lot of pre-season testing, but they've changed the spark plugs and the coil. He did manage to finish 3 laps down. Pole sitter and race leader in sport Rob Neiman in his familiar Renault Clio, being chased by Bart van den Broek in the Peugeot RCZ, the reigning sport champions. John van der Voort and Sandra van der Slot in the Alfa can't get close, but claimed 3rd in race 1. Rob Neiman on pole for both races, but now there's only 1 point available for pole position, even if you get 2 of them, and no extra points for fastest lap. Peugeot moves into the lead of the class up the Kemmel Straight. The champions out front, and there's the Alfa shared by Sandra van der Slot and John van der Voort. Problems for the Turkish driver Cengiz Oguzhan in his Porsche. Comes in with a puncture, wrecks more than just the tyre on the way back in. Does rejoin, but fails to finish 8 laps down. The orange and black Porsche Bob Herber still attacking Wim Mulders for 3rd in the GT class. Into Eau Rouge. And being behind, Bob Herber should be able to choose the right line and get a good exit. He sticks to his task halfway around the circuit. Looking for a way around the outside into Piff Paff. That doesn't quite work. Micah Verhagen close, ready to pick up some crumbs from the table. Mistake by Wim Mulders, goes deep on the exit. But he manages to hang on. John de Wilde, Roger Graals leading the GT class ahead of this battle as it rages on at Spa. This programme is powered by Hankook Tyres, Autosportinsurance.com, and Magla. Create your own digital magazine. Round 1 of the Supercar Challenge at Spa, combining their grid with the GT and Prototype Challenge. Trouble at the start for Koen Wouters, clips a spinning Ligier and he is out of the race. John de Wilde leads the GT class, chased by Roger Graals and Wim Mulders, all in Porsches. The less powerful BMW M4 silhouettes struggling to keep on the long, fast Spa circuit. There's John de Wilde, Roger Graals behind, then the battle for 3rd behind Jim Geddes' Ferrari as Bob Herber goes by Wim Mulders and hangs on to 3rd spot. With Michael Verhagen, he's 5th in the BMW M4 silhouette. And he goes around the outside into the bus stop. Can't get through there. Try to use his ability under braking. But the Porsches with more power are going to pull away in the straights. Similar story for Bas Schouten. He's a little further back chasing Jos Janssen. Has to dive by under braking. And they need to hope that the BMW's better tyre wear will pay off later in the race and they can pick off some more Porsches. Lead battle, John de Wilde and Roger Graals heading towards the pit stop window. And Graals all over the back of de Wilde. Stan van Oord waiting for the Supersport 1 leader Dennis de Borst. There he is, ahead of the Lotus Exige V6 of Roland de Waart, carving through the Supersport 1 field. Closing down the leader, Dennis de Borst, the reigning champion, comes in the Cupra TCR. The Supersport and Sport division stopping between the 20th and 30th minute, the GT cars after them. The Lotus Exige drops out not too much later with mechanical problems. Second pit stop needed for Luc van Loon. He's already taken over from Dad Ronald, but then a blown cooling hose. Luc van Loon starts to unbuckle, thinking the race is over, but Moritz, one of the team, giving him a pep talk. They'll fix the problem and get him out to do 75% race distance and score points. Stan van Oord, meanwhile, setting fastest lap time in his stint to keep the lead in Supersport 1. John de Wilde being chased by Roger Graals. This is the 1-2 in the GT class. Bob Herber up to third with Bas Schouten now chasing Dan Meyer, and that's Vincent Despret in front. So the BMW all over the back of the Porsches as the fuel load lightens. Meyer goes by Despret and Schouten trying to do the same. Jos Janssen behind them. Out of La Source, down into Eau Rouge, you can see the Porsches pull away immediately from Bas Schouten. This is where he has to watch for Jos Janssen in his mirrors, but look, keeps his foot flat on the boards. And that cornering grip and the M4 silhouette allows him to streak by Vincent Despret. And Despret's engine power then pulls him back in front. Tough times for the BMW M4 silhouette drivers, no question about it. The tighter circuits will suit them better. Look at the cornering grip again, back around the outside of Despret at Lecombe. Looks like that's job done for the moment at least. Bas Schouten into the pits to hand over to Vard Slice. Last minute decision for Bas to join Vard to defend their title. The slower 3.2 litre straight six engines are a real challenge. Schouten scored more poles and fastest lap times than anyone else last year, and in fact he's indirectly caused the rules to be changed. He can only score one bonus point for the fastest qualifying lap, no more for a second pole or for fastest lap times. Back in the action, Vard Slice ahead of Dan Meyer after the stops, and up the long Kemmel Straight. The Porsche doesn't really even need this slipstream. The engine power takes him straight by. Vard Slice back down to 8th in GT. Willem Meyer with an injured foot, ready to take over from Michael Verhagen, 5th in the GT class. The best that the silhouettes can do, it seems, against the Porsches. On the long straights, we've just got such a power disadvantage. We can compensate with that with much better cornering speed, but at the start I already got passed by 3 cars on the Kemmel Straight. Very hard to overtake them again in the corners. You've got to go the long way round. Still managed to keep up with the cars in front pretty much. Also managed to keep the tyres in good shape, so hopefully Willem can benefit from this and maybe make up some lost ground. Bob Herber and Willem Meyer leave their garages almost immediately, and it should be a battle for 3rd in GT. On board with Willem Meyer, Bob Herber's car right in front. A little wave from the 19-year-old as they go through some of the sport class cars. Jon de Wilde, Roger Graals, Bob Herber, a Porsche 123, all driving on their own. Willem Meyer inheriting the M4 silhouette from Michael Verhagen. And it's the twistier parts of the Spa Francorchamps circuit where he's starting to gobble up the Porsche. And he's got to keep the pressure up so the Porsches wear their tyres, and then he can hopefully go by later in the race when they've got less grip. Trying to go around the outside. Well, he got there, but the Porsche had the inside line and came back under him. Fantastic battle going on for 3rd place. Bob Herber with a good exit as well, using all of his experience ahead of the youngster Willem Meyer. And Meyer again at the top of the circuit, all over the back of the Porsche. Closes in every time under braking. The Porsche with more power weighs more. That's how they balance the cars in these classes. Power versus weight. And they all share the same Hankook control tyre. Or Meyer with a quick reactions there to grab that handful of oversteer. And again up the hill, the Porsche stretching its legs. Behind 7th place, Vincent Despret. It's Henk Seissecar with Patrick Lamster pushing him. Meyer keeping his foot buried there, just the tiniest of flinches at the fastest corner on the circuit, and then around the outside at the bus stop. Can he turn inside? No. Bob Herber knew it was coming and guarded the inside line jealously. Supercar doing well in the second stint in the yellow, black and red Porsche, holding on to 7th. Battle for the lead, Roger Graals right behind John de Wilde. The two Porsches first and second. Willem Meyer versus Bob Herber, the battle for third. Just coming onto the straight as they leave it at the hairpin at La Source. And a good run through La Source from Roger Graals, cut to the inside. Almost seemed to catch John de Wilde by surprise. So a change of the lead in the GT class. Up at Les Combes, Willem Meyer again shows his nose inside Bob Herber. Herber rides the curbs. Meyer's got an overlap. Down the hill into Bruxelles. Not quite enough, but the Porsche's weight carries it out wide. Meyer holds a tighter line but can't get on the throttle. He knows the Porsche's still there. Still there. Great battle between the teenager and the veteran. The long fast circuit at Spa, maybe the TT circuit at Assen, not going to favour the BMW M4 silhouettes. But at places like Zolder, they should really be in their element. Down the inside into Piff Paff. This time he makes the pass, but can he stay in front? Probably only until the next straight. Battle for 4th in Supersport 1 in the orange BMW. Marcel van der Maat, the car started by Peter Schroers. He's got Ted van Vliet right behind in the silver BMW. Jonas de Kimper's Golf closing in. Down to La Source, long lunge from Ted van Vliet. He does know the corner's there, doesn't he? He runs out very wide, big slide, and the Golf will close. Piff Paff, and they come across Luc van Loon, circulating slowly. Oh dear, and something expensive has broken then. Let's take a look on board with Luc van Loon. Oh my goodness, prop shaft or something has broken, and that has set off the fire extinguisher as well. Sounds like it's cut through the floor and cut through the fire extinguisher. It's just going off. And unfortunately, the Van Loon's BMW is out of action. Turkish driver Supercar in the red, yellow and black. Looking strong here, battling Vincent Desprit for 6th position in the GT class. Supercar building his experience here at Spa. Goes out nice and wide at La Source. He knows he wants to get the tight inside line and drive hard down the hill to pile on the pressure. Up at Les Combes, and the Turkish driver is through. He's moved up to 6th position. Varsluis continuing the fight back from the pit lane started by Bas Schouten in the M4 silhouette, chasing Patrick Lamster up the hill. The car in front started by Wiebe Weitzes. Lamster taking over, the former champion running wide on the fastest corner on the track. And now down the inside comes Varsluis. Look how late the BMW is on the brakes compared to the heavier Porsche. Through he goes, up to 8th for the moment. But of course the Porsche's power immediately pays off. Lamster trying to fight his way back. Up at Les Combes, and Lamster's Porsche has got back in front of Varsluis, and once more the BMW driver has to set to try and find an inside line. Down into Bruxelles, he gets his nose inside. We've seen exactly this with Willem Meyer versus Bob Herber, haven't we? Varsluis, despite having more experience of the car, the circuit and this kind of racing, not finding it an awful lot easier. Roger Graals leading from John de Wilde, inches apart. And the Porsches still seem to be finding enough grip from their tyres. Willem Meyer battling Bob Herber for 3rd behind this pair. Here is Willem Meyer, and trouble for the BMW M4 silhouette out of the podium places. He's been passed by Bob Herber and Dan Meyer, and you can hear why. The car's just rolling down the hill. It's not firing properly. He keeps switching it on and off. Willem Meyer, 199, back up to speed again, at least for the moment, and behind Dan Meyer. This is the battle now for 5th place. Well, whatever ailed the BMW, hopefully that problem has gone. The Martini Porsche in front, Dan Meyer. Willem Meyer goes around the outside. Couldn't quite get it done there at Bruxelles. And again the car is dying. And he's going to lose another place to the Turkish driver Cenk Sesakar. Vincent de Spreek with the yellow colours also dropping back down the order, slumping down to the bottom of the top 10. Roger Graals with the yellow highlights on his white Porsche, just ahead of John de Wilde, all the way to the checkered flag. Well, almost all the way to the checkered flag. Final lap, heading out to La Source and down to Eau Rouge. In front is a slower KTM Crossbow, and that's where it goes wrong for Roger Graals. Held up badly in Eau Rouge, and then as they climb the hill, the KTM slows even more. Graals pops out to the right, hard on the brakes to avoid a crash. Through goes Jean de Wilde, and Graals has not got enough time to catch him anymore. De Wilde takes victory on the final lap. Roger Graals in 2nd place. Bob Herber takes 3rd in the GT class, ahead of Dan Meyer and Cenk Sesakar in 5th. The BMW Silhouettes only 6th and 7th. Disappointing start to the season for Chris and Koen Wouters as they fail to do a lap. Couldn't keep Roger behind me, so eventually he got by, but by staying right with him, I was able to stay in the slipstream. Getting by out the question, had a little bit of luck. The final lap he got held up, I got a gap, so with half a lap to go I took the lead and won the race. Rennie Steinmetz 2nd in Supersport 1 with a Cupra, but getting warned for track limits by race control when he shot out there at Pouhon. He was handed a drive-through penalty. Of course, he disagreed with that. He didn't gain any advantage. Nevertheless, he had to serve his penalty and drop back to 3rd place. Well, with the Cupra out of the lead, Robert and Benjamin Vandenberg moved up to 2nd place. Great result in their new car. Stan van Oort and Dennis de Borst winning the first race of the season, 8.4 seconds clear. Robert Vandenberg closing towards the end. Jonas de Kimper chasing Marcel van der Maat for 4th in Supersport 1. Just 2600ths apart after an hour of racing. If only he hadn't made that mistake early on and earned himself a drive-through. Victory, though, went to Dennis de Borst and Stan Ord in the Cupra TCR. Last year's Supersport 2 champion Ollie Taylor hasn't upgraded his car to Supersport 1 spec, so he's carrying on with an old E36 M3. Made a good start, said Dennis de Borst. Got a decent speed pretty quickly, but we had no radio, so we didn't have any tactics. Just had to watch the pit board, but it worked out fine. Stan did a great job finishing the race. I only had one job, and of course that was to keep the lead to the checkered flag, to keep the tyres in good condition in these warm conditions and stay out of trouble, but it's great to be first. Chris Hoot and Bart Vanderbroek finished the race at the top of the Sport Tree, 42 seconds clear of Rob Neiman in 2nd place. Sandra van der Slot in the Alfa closed the gap, but came up 6.9 seconds shy of 2nd spot.
In het begin hadden we dan volledig nieuwe banden gestoken en we toch geopteerd van de eerste.
We started on brand new tyres, said Bart. Took it easy for the first 2 or 3 laps because last year I spun on new tyres and didn't want to make that mistake again. That was still bugging me, but after the first couple of laps, I was able to attack. Supersport 2 winners Roger Deleu and Patrick de Freyder were the only car in the class, but to finish first you have to finish. They made it to the checkered flag to take victory. There should be more competition next round. In the GT and Prototype Challenge powered by Hankook, father and son Glyn and Jim Geddy from Scotland won Super GT, 12 seconds clear of Barry van Elks Mosler, and Oliver Framework 3rd with the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. The LMP3 class was led by Jean-Pierre Lecoeur and Jean-Marc Ubereken's Ginetta Nissan. The Ligier of Matthias Becker and Javier Ibran had a new nose fitted and they continued in the race, but it had big handling issues. Javier Ibran getting away with this one by the skin of his teeth. It almost went horribly wrong there at Fania. Well, they struggled on, but were no competition for Jean-Pierre Lecoeur and Jean-Marc Ubereken winning in LMP3. Alistair Bolton in the red and white Radical leading the SR3 R1 class, sharing with Alan Berg, whose Praga R1 he normally shares with Tim Gray didn't start. Dick Van Elk's Praga R1 also retired. Stefano Lini and Neil Primrose's Norma took the class win in CN. Fun fact, it's exactly a second a lap slower at Spa than the Ligier JSP3 LMP3 car. Coming up, race 2 from Spa Francorchamps, and Sunday is rain day, adding a little bit of spice to the equation. This programme is powered by Hankook tyres, Autosportinsurance.com, and Magla. Create your own digital magazine. The opening race weekend of the Supercar Challenge powered by Hankook at Spa Francorchamps. Race 1 was in dry conditions, but at the start that meant everybody jostled their way into La Source, and the Ligier got turned around, causing carnage. The poor unfortunate who took the brunt of the impact, Koen Wouters, in the DVB Racing Porsche. He and Chris, the famous Belgian singers, were hoping for something from race 1, more than just one corner of action anyway.
Ja, gisteren was het een race van...
Yesterday we had a race that lasted about 300 metres, I think. Teams fixed the car. We've got no clue how it's going to go, though. We're just going to have to wait and see. And on top of that, it's also starting to rain. So we might have to start with rain tyres, and we've never driven on wet Hankooks before. So it'll be a little adventure. A little adventure for everybody, probably, with wet track conditions for the first time in the weekend. The GT and Prototype Challenge powered by Hankook again start at the front of the grid. Overall, race 1 winners Jean-Pierre Lecoeur and Jean-Marc Ubereken start from pole position, but they're almost alone. Tim Gray and Alan Berg's Praga isn't on the grid, and Stefan Lini and Neil Primrose's Norma will also start from the pit lane. Javier Ibran is there, starting on row 2, second in the LMP3 class. First in Super GT, Glyn Geddy will do the race alone in the family Ferrari. Next to him, Barry Van Elk's Mosler, which led early on in race 1. The GT pole sitter is Bas Schouten in the BMW M4 Silhouette, starting from the grid rather than the pit lane as he did in race 1. Similar car of Michael Verhagen, his teammate, starts alongside. Well, the track is damp, everybody's on wet weather tyres, and it has been confirmed as a wet session. Very wet, unfortunately, for Benjamin van der Berg. Everybody has to show that their fire extinguisher is operational. Unfortunately, one of the teams set it off, and van den Berg, soaked in extinguishant, goes to the pit lane. The charge down to the first corner. Jean-Pierre Lecoeur heads it in the black. Ginetta Nissan being cautious on the inside, though. That holds up Jim Geddy and everybody on the right-hand side. Roger Grauls goes around the outside. The BMW just in front. That's Michael Verhagen. He's taken the lead in GT on the right-hand side there. Bas Schouten trying to come by. But Grauls, with a good run down the hill, uses the Porsche's power. Takes the lead in GT. Schouten in third in the spray behind his teammate Michael Verhagen. Oh, and he's over the curbs. Always difficult in these wet conditions. John de Wilde from behind had a good run through Eau Rouge. Goes by one BMW, cuts to the inside, goes by the other BMW and pulls another gear. Accelerates past Michael Verhagen, who stays on the throttle longer and comes around the outside under braking to move back into second behind Roger Grauls. All arms and elbows in the GT class on the opening lap. Lights flashing ahead, the tail of the Ligier of Javier Ibran, the LMP3 second place man, with Bas Schouten. Schouten now trying to go the long way around the outside of Bruxelles. It's all arms and elbows, the car's writhing, struggling for grip. John de Wilde on the inside. But Michael Verhagen in front looks like he's going the long way around the outside of Roger Grauls for the GT lead. He is. The BMWs have a little bit more grip than the Porsches. Michael Verhagen leads Bas Schouten. Roger Grauls struggling for grip. We're with Bob Herbert, and Grauls in front with the yellow highlights. Around him for third goes John de Wilde, and coming up from 8th in GT. Clearly a good setup. Lots of traction for Bob Herber. He goes by Roger Graals as well. Well, there's John de Wilde going by the Ligier LMP3 car. Such is his pace. And the Ginetta goes straight by on the straight, but John de Wilde from 3rd place pulling over up the Kemmel Straight.
Ja, ik heb in het begin, ik denk ronde 2, 3...
Second and third lap had a good battle with Roger Graals and Bob Herber going. Got a little tap on the rear wheel by Bob. Nothing major, but a couple of laps later something broke in the suspension. It's a real shame because I was in the middle of the BMWs in second, but that's the way it goes. Before the pit stops, Bas Schouten taking the lead from Michael Verhagen, lap 3 of the wet race. Schouten in a league of his own, building a big gap once he was out front. Roger Graals, though, struggling in the Porsche, and he dropped back into the midfield in the GT class, trying to hold off Dan Meyer's Martini Porsche and Chris Walters. Walters brothers having an excellent race, slowly moving back up the order, and thanks to clever thinking by the DVB team and their manager Frank Turio. Track slowly drying, choosing the right moment to go on slicks or stay out on wets is important. Walters stays out on wets, others change to slicks and lose a lot of time. Patrick Lamser and Weber Weitzers, for instance, heading on to slicks. And that gives them 3rd place in GT. Bas Schouten and Vaardsluis make no mistakes to win the 2nd GT race. A good recovery after race 1. Teammates Michael Verhagen and Willem Meyer in 2nd.
Ik zat er heel erg lekker in eigenlijk. In het begin was het wel druk.
Must have been one of my best rain stints, says Bas. In the beginning it was quite a handful finding grip and getting past the competition like Michael and the Porsches. Afterwards though I got the right rhythm and kept a strong pace up to the pit stops and built up a big margin. Yesterday wasn't our best race for sure, says Vaardsluis. I had a tough time adjusting to the less powerful engine and a different approach on how you have to drive the car. Porsches are really quick. Started race to a different mindset and that worked out well. I think I've done much better taking fewer risks. Great to finish first with Bas. The defending champions lead the series ahead of their teammates with Bob Herber in 3rd place as they head away from Spa. In Supersport 1, the Race 1 winner Dennis de Borst in the Cupra started from pole, gambled with slicks at the front and wets at the back, but that definitely backfired. René Steenmetz, all on wets, took the lead in Supersport 1. And Peter Schroers took 2nd place from Dennis de Borst on the Exit de Les Combes. Ronald and Luc van Loon's BMW also moved up a spot. In the stops between the 30th and 40th minute of the race, it was definitely time to head onto slicks. Marcel van der Maat and Peter Schroers led with 0 result seconds, but the wheel changes weren't ready at the end of the 60-second mandatory stationary period, and that cost them. So with one rain tyre on the right rear, they started to drop back. And that rain tyre overheating badly, meaning really limited grip on half of the driven axle of the BMW. Stan van Oord with 4 fresh slicks on his Cupra TCR all over the back of Marcel van der Maat. And it didn't take him long to get by him. And later, Luc van Loon, who was still on wet weather tyres as well. Well, grip is everything in the mixed conditions, and the slicks were definitely the tyre to have. It was victory in race 2 in Supersport 1 for René Steenmetz, with Dennis de Borst and Stan van Oord in 2nd, Ronald and Luc van Loon taking 3rd in their BMW. And after the first race weekend, the Supersport 1 table is headed by Dennis de Borst, the champion, with Stan van Oord. René Steenmetz making it a Cupra 1-2, ahead of the Vandenberg's BMW in 3rd. A gamble on slicks cost Race 1 Sport Class winners Bart van den Broek and Chris Vogt. They dropped a lap off the lead. Victory went to Sandra Slot, driving the Alfa 147 GTA on her own. At the pit stop, she took on slicks, just like everybody else, but she won by 4.2 seconds over Rob Niemann's Renault Clio, with the Peugeot a lap behind. The overall race leader took the checker flag right behind me, so I did another full lap and I had a fun battle with Rob Niemann. He got very close at the end but managed to win it, so mission accomplished. Rob Niemann is the championship leader ahead of the reigning champions. That 1 point he got for pole in race 1. He also had pole for race 2, but didn't get the extra point under this year's rules. Patrick de Freda and Roger Delot finished again to win Supersport 2, and they lead the championship in a class of their own. In the GT and Prototype Challenge, LMP3 was won by Jean-Pierre Leclerc and Jean-Marc Uberecking, making it 2 wins for 2 ahead of Matthias Becker and Javier Ibran. Second round of their championship will be at Zolder at the end of June. Glyn Geddy drove solo in the Ferrari to win Super GT a lap ahead of Barry van Elks-Mosler, Oliver Framert failing to finish. Better fortunes for the Praga R1 Turbo of Tim Gray and Alan Berg than in race 1. They won race 2 ahead of Stefano Lini and Neil Primrose in the Norma, who took second in the CN class. Better luck too for Praga R1 driver Dick Van Elk than in race 1. He finished second in the SR3 R1 category to Alistair Bolton, who claimed victory again in his Radical. Next time out, the Supercar Challenge powered by Hankook will be at Zandvoort in the Jumbo Race Days driven by Max Verstappen from the 19th to the 21st of May, and we'll be there to catch all the action. See you then. Bye for now. This programme is powered by Hankook Tyres, Autosportinsurance.com, and Magla. Create your own digital magazine.